On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Terry Metalis dashes our dreams for Star Trek Legacy, just a bit, and good lord, there seems to be a lot of Trek movies in development. Right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
Welcome to Star Trek Universe, a podcast where we let you listen in. We allow it. On this conversation between two lifelong friends talking about one of their favorite shows of all time, Star Trek, their favorite universe.
Oh, I thought you were going to say news radio.
It's a great show. It's a great show.
Dave Foley, y'all. Get on that. Phil Hartman.
Oh, before we started, I was telling you how good Fargo is.
Uh-huh.
Dave Foley, main character this season.
I figured it was going to be Dave Foley, since I doubt it would be Phil Hartman.
It's true. That is a good point. But no, Dave Foley in a completely non-comedic role, which was very interesting.
Oh, I've seen him do it before. He's very good, for real.
Very, very good. He was great in it. I can't stop talking about Fargo. I think I can't remember if we talked about it on this podcast yet, but me and Scoots talked about it on Pandavision for 3 episodes, and I just can't stop talking about it. I love that. I love the season 5 of Fargo that just aired.
Well, you will stop talking about it, because this is a show about Star Trek, damn it.
No, I won't, because Noah Hawley should have made a Star Trek movie.
He was gonna.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He's making an Alien show now, which I am like, so after this season of Fargo, like I am so freaking pumped for an Alien show with him at the helm.
I have the same aggravation with the Alien franchise that I do with Terminator, because I was just reading an article about how Hawley was saying, like, oh yeah, this prequel series of Alien just ignores Covenant and Prometheus. Yeah. I don't like that shit. And I'm like,
well, yeah, we covered it on covered that on Multiverse News, and like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I've never seen Prometheus or Covenant, and I know that they like go back and tell some sort of origins, but my hope is that they will ignore it in a way that doesn't discount it. You can ignore an origin without discounting it. You know what I mean? Like without disrupting it, or in other words.
Yeah. But they're also making this Alien Romulus movie that has nothing to do with anything else. So,
Interesting.
I just don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do get it. You get Elseworlds, you get different universes, you get all that. It's just a matter of, at some point you break the canon, or we don't like you to, but at some point some series decide a reboot is necessary.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I just like a tasty label. I want to know. I want to know.
I do too. And I've said this on a lot of other shows, and I'm sure I've said it here. The thing that pisses me off isn't the reboot. It's trying to tell me it's not a reboot, but being a reboot. You know what I mean? Like, I really, really don't like that. I really don't like the mushy middle, because you're trying to utilize the canon that I love while not actually giving it to me. You want to like use my fandom against me, and it pisses me off.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, let's talk about this Star Trek news.
Sure, I'll start off with this. They're doing this big, or they did do this big Trek Talks marathon that was live streamed January 13th on YouTube to benefit Hollywood Food Coalition. And the Star Trek Picard season 3 panel had like a ton of people: Terry Metalis, Jonathan Frakes, Gates McFadden, Jerry Ryan. I mean, just a bunch of people: Michael Dorn, Brent Spiner, etc. And so they were talking about. Metalis was talking about the technical issues, the technical details on the darker lighting for the show, and he said he would do some things differently if we were ever to do more. And the moderator was Jonathan Del Arco, and he was like, he kind of jumped on that, and Metalis was like, I'm not alluding to anything. I wish. There is no spinoff in development. And they talked a little bit about everybody would want to come back and everybody wants to do this. And Metalis was like, I think we'll just let Jonathan take this. And he's like, he said that he still has wounds from CBS after leaking stuff at conventions in the past.
Mm.
And they were like, well, wait a minute. Or sorry, the moderators, Kayla Lacovino. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. But Metalis said, no, there truly isn't anything to leak. You know, it's interesting because the end of the show, the last scene, although it is a setup for spinoff, it wasn't designed to be a setup for a spinoff. The right ending for the next generation is passing the torch to the next generation. And without doing that, it wouldn't feel right. So that was watching literally their children go off on the Enterprise and paying off Seven of Nine's wonderful arc from Borg to captain of the flagship. That just felt like a proper ending. And Todd Stashwick talking about Captain Shaw. He was like, I think it's interesting that you brought up Spock because he died and came back to life, adding it is kind of an established trope. Metalis said, since I did it with Data, I think it's time to move on. I hope not. I really want Legacy to happen.
Yeah, me too.
Really like those characters,
and there's lots of room for that captain to come back in flashbacks. You know what I mean? They could absolutely do some stuff with him in flashbacks, or just set at a different time period. But I also don't want to see him come back necessarily as a character on the show.
Yeah, well, several months ago, Metalis said that he had a really cool idea for how they would bring Todd back.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Here's the rub, though. Like, while I'm sitting here going, like, man, I really want more Star Trek Legacy. I want to see that show. Patrick Stewart said that he just got a script. He was on Happy Sad Confused. And he said, after we finished recording our 7 seasons of Next Gen, we made 4 Star Trek movies of varying qualities, the best one being First Contact, directed by Jonathan Frakes. He was one of the people who had the most influence on me on the show because of his experience and his understanding of the complexities and how bringing different qualities onto the stage was very, very important in diversity and change. So it's an ongoing procedure for me. I heard only last night about a script that is being written, but written specifically with the actor Patrick Stewart to play in it, and I've been told to expect to receive it within a week or so. Now, this was back in November that he actually had this interview. He says, I'm excited because it sounds like the kind of project where the experimentation that I want to do will be essential for this kind of material. And, so a film with Jean-Luc Picard. And he's said it over and over again. He would love to do a movie that, wrapped up his story. I thought his story was wrapped up.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah. I mean, there's room for stories, of course, but like, I don't know. I enjoy Picard, but overall, I find it a little disappointing. And I'd want them to do something really good to end his story. Mm-hmm. I would enjoy something. If they wanted to do something, I'd be down. But also, like, I'm just scared I'd be a little disappointed again. Like, it didn't really give me everything I wanted out of a Picard series. And it felt like it took a lot of weird detours to do things that, like, never really paid off and stuff. And we've talked about it ad nauseum. I like the show, but it doesn't feel like the end of it. Doesn't feel like an ending to me necessarily. Although it clearly it did a lot of big things and did a lot of big bringing. It felt like an ending and a nice reunion. It felt more like a reunion for the crew than an ending for the crew. Yeah, well, the nice thing about the ending of Picard. Mm-hmm. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. Metalis really did a good job. I feel like doing right by all the different factions of fans, because there's the faction of fans that said the best Next Generation / Picard ending was all good things. Mm-hmm. They literally ended with them playing poker like in All Good Things. So it's like, yes, that they brought that back around. Sure. Yes, that was a great ending. Also wrapped up Picard and the Borg. I mean, wrapped up his, sadness about not having kids. Sure.
I mean, they pretty much did everything. Like, the only thing I can think of that I would really be interested in seeing, honestly, I mean, and just from the Next Generation, not even necessarily from Picard, would be Selah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just never saw her again. They were kind of acting like something was going to happen in Next Generation, where she was like behind the scenes doing some shit, and then we just never got another Romulan story with her in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would love to get something on Selah.
That would be really
somewhere.
cool. That would you're right. They did a lot of closing of loops that needed to be closed. So it ticks a lot of boxes for me, but something about it doesn't feel final, and probably because there were no deaths. Like major deaths.
Well, they already went that route, and it sucked.
With who? Who are you talking about?
Well, Nemesis was maybe the beginning of the last, thing, and they killed Data off.
Yeah.
And then they had to fix that.
Sure, but they killed him off and then had B4 on the ship with a clear allusion to oh, he's going to become he has Data's memories. It was just really. I guess that's my problem. I think that last season could have been more beautiful and more final if they'd killed Picard. And I hate to say it, but I do think that would have made that a series that felt a little more like closure to me.
They've learned their lesson from Kirk in Generations. There is no way to kill a beloved character like that and make it good enough.
Sure.
People are still bitching about how Kirk died.
Yeah, but
William Shatner is still bitching about how Kirk died.
Well, sure, but I'm not. I love that death. I think it's great.
I do too. I
don't know.
Do too.
Sure, you're never going to please everybody, but I think Generations is a great out for that captain. Obviously, it could have been more. They could have done differently. They could have done all kinds of things. Sure, it would have been nice to see him on the bridge of the ship. At least see him, even if he doesn't die on the bridge of a ship. Let us see him on the bridge of the ship. But I enjoy that death. I think that and it's something that's burned in my memory, and I think that's kind of what I'm saying. The end of that era is Generations, and I think of that movie, and I think of that bridge, and I think of Sauron, and I think of that planet. It feels epic to me. It feels like a moment I lost someone, And I think of that when I think of his character arc, and I think of its ending. Yeah. I don't know, if I think of Picard and his character arc, I don't know that this doesn't feel like the ending to me, because it clearly leaves so much open to explore and just to continue. And so I think they kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too, have an ending, but they wanted to leave it open. And it's okay, well then you just didn't have an ending. So as much as, and I think it would have also been better if it feels like the first two seasons of Picard aren't really leading towards the third season. You know what I mean? It's
in some ways,
the first two seasons are just completely separate stories. I feel like if they'd been a little more cohesive with the overall 3 seasons and then actually ended the character's arc, I think that could have been a better send-off for the character. But the 3 seasons feel like a bunch of backdoor pilots
so
thrown in.
if they make this Picard movie, which I assume will be Paramount Plus, I can't see it going to theaters. Do you want to see them kill Picard?
Yeah. No, maybe not this one. I don't know. I do want to see Picard die. I don't want Patrick Stewart to die before Picard does.
Yeah, I think I'm good without ever seeing the character pass away. You know what I mean?
I'm not.
I think I'm pretty good with that.
I'm not. I want him to die. I think it's an important part of life, and it's an important part of adventure is the end. And I just think it's they just should have done it, man. I don't think I felt this passionately about it at the time, but now in retrospect, looking back on that final season, it feels unfinished. It feels like they've reunited, and it feels so good. That's great. It was really nice, but where's the finality And like, maybe it's not final. Maybe that's the point. Maybe their adventure continues. It's Angel season 5. I want to fight the dragon.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, that it feels good to me in that,
but
I want to fight the dragon kind of way.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like retirement. It doesn't feel the end of the show feels like, oh, we all got together one last trip. We're all sitting playing cards, as you mentioned, is the end of the series. Why do all this to end on the same place? Like, no, like, end it somewhere different. Kill the character, or do something drastic to, like, change the scope of the universe. Like, I want to see something big. And not that they didn't do anything big. Starfleet was completely Borgified for a minute.
Yeah.
But we don't know exactly what that means to everyone. And like, if everyone's going to have those memories, that's a big swing. That's like Doctor Who levels of the universe destruction. But
yeah, I think just because they did a mirror shot of the final episode of The Next Generation, I don't feel at all like we're in the same place. Those characters have grown, they've changed. Data is a combination of data and lore. Like, he's got a future of humanity that he can and wants to explore, unlike the simulated, I've been trapped in a freaking digital box Data.
Well, sure. Yeah, and I definitely like that ending for Data a lot better. And I think the little bit of lore we saw in that Data lore combination, I mean, we got that episode where they like fought and in the mind, and I think that was really interesting and fun. I would have rather them just like be a little more a fusion of the two, you know. I don't know. It's also been a year or a half. It's been about a year since we've seen it, and I'm like, I need to go back. But just thinking back on it though, it doesn't feel final to me. So I'm up for a Picard movie. There's just there's something missing for it to be a final thing. And I think it's that he's still breathing.
I don't think it's that for me. Like, I would love to see the Star Trek Legacy characters with an occasional next gen pop in.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't think I ever actually want to see Picard die. We just saw him die in season 1 of Picard, and they brought him back as a damn golem or something. And
that would have been a fine ending if he's a golem now, and we know that, and he just is an eternal Picard, and he has to deal with, like, what does it mean? Like, I've always been racing the clock, and now I'm some eternal being? That's interesting. Go that way. But this goes to the sin of season 1, so, like, this is a whole different issue. Yeah. But, like, this whole thing
different
of, like,
showrunner
bringing him back just to, like, make him the same is it's the ballless shit I've ever seen. Like, it just has no weight to that death, and it's stupid.
Yeah. Now, what I do like, I like the idea that they would bring him back as a golem and say, like, you're going to live probably another 20 years, and then, you know, just like if you were still alive. And he was like, oh, yes, I don't want to be like a superhuman thing who lives forever. But I like the idea that they do have an out if Patrick Stewart does pass away, and if they plan well, they could always have Picard, because you could have his character be like, well, shit, I just started my life again. You know, maybe I'm with Beverly, maybe I'm with doing this, maybe I'm doing that. And there is this idea that I like about Picard saying, I'm about to die again, and I don't want the game to end. I'm not ready for it.
Sure.
And you could upgrade him to another actor. You could do whatever the hell you wanted.
Then it really becomes Doctor Who. It's just like,
which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'd be fine. I'd be fine with something like that. A regenerated Captain Picard, like a young Captain Picard, like still with all his knowledge and all his whatever, like continuing on for another 1,000 years. 1,000 years, Captain Picard.
Yeah. How cool would that be? Like, you won. I'm not saying I don't think they'll do this, but how cool would it be in Discovery if, like, they just find Picard somewhere and he's like just doing something weird? He's like, I've done everything else, you know?
Yeah. Oh man, that would be great. Especially if they did, like, have maybe be able to go back and be a younger actor, but then it's like Patrick Stewart Picard has now aged into that age again, and he's like in the future. Yeah, that'd be super fun and weird. Yeah, I like these kinds of weird ideas, but I guess that's the thing is like the show feels like yes, there are big changes, but also there's not. You know what I mean? And I guess that's sort of like that's the TNG thing. It's the every episode you can have big events, but it's still the same show. You know, you're still tuning into the same show with the same characters every week, and they don't have major changes for the most part. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of just feeling like I want more, but I don't want to be disappointed again.
Right, and that's pretty much where I am, because like for so long Nemesis was it for TNG, and I felt like, God, that's such a bullshit ending for TNG.
This is way better than Nemesis.
Way better than Nemesis.
Yeah.
They, and look, I'm not trying to piss on Michael Chabon. I think he did an admirable job of trying to do something new and different and trying to satiate what Patrick Stewart wanted. In order to agree to come back, until he got a little more nostalgic and actually wanted to do the next gen, because he was never going to he didn't want a next gen reunion on the show. And thank God they got Frakes and Certus in there to like soften the old lug up.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely
so that we can get something else.
The final season is what I think we wanted from Picard from the beginning, but I do think that what they did with the first two seasons is important, in the sense that they like introduced us to a new group of characters that could continue into Legacy or could show up anywhere. Like I'd watch an Elnor show or whatever, Yeah. Anyway, so what else we got in the news? I don't mean to perseverate on my thoughts on Picard. We've covered them. Although I'm feeling stronger now than I think I did at the time. At the time, I was a little more like, yeah, it's fine. It was good. Yeah. I really enjoyed the final episode. It's just, I think when you talk about finality, I don't feel like it's done. It feels restless in my brain now that I have a year of.
There are always possibilities, Spock said.
It's true.
I am feeling a bit precious about it, though.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I liked season 3's ending enough as an ending. I'm like, I know I'm good. Just let me die, please. Just let me die before you do something else.
Oh, man. Lord.
No, so... Weirdly, we know that they're developing Star Trek 4 and they're trying to get that off the ground. And weirdly, Deadline just announced that they're writing another one, an origin story that takes place decades before the 2009 Star Trek movie. And apparently directing is Toby Haynes, who directed 6 out of 12 episodes of Andor. By the way, also directed that Star Trek episode of Black Mirror.
Oh, interesting.
USS McAllister or whatever, Callister, whatever it was.
Yeah. Ooh, great episode. That and one of the episodes he had directed of... have you seen Andor?
No.
There's a great episode of Andor.
I've seen parts of it.
There's a great episode of Andor that happens on like a penal colony type thing, like a... it just feels to me like a Star Trek episode. It's like a group of prisoners, like someone ends up in jail and has to get out of jail, and he's like sort of like discovering what's going on, and the guard changes. It just feels like it could have been O'Brien in there or something, like when I heard he was directing it and that was one of his episodes, I was like, that felt like a Star Trek episode. There's a lot of interesting like philosophical stuff happening with like the different characters, and some of them wanting to rebel and others wanting to like just stay in line, like and what it means to have all your hope gone and stuff. Like it's good. It's a really good episode. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, and Seth Grahame-Smith, who wrote the Lego Batman movie and Beetlejuice 2, is writing the script. He also had a hand in writing The Flash, but I don't know how much. Because they had like 16 writers or some crazy shit like that by the end of it. Seth Grahame-Smith was supposed to direct The Flash at one point. But yeah, so anyway, Toby Haynes, I am down for that. He's a huge Star Trek fan. I'm just sort of going like, what exactly are they up to here? Yeah. Like, are they trying to sweeten the pot for when they get bought out?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what we had. Jay Scotty brought that up on Multiverse News and was like, wait, maybe not. I don't know what this means. We were all like, yeah.
Yeah. But weirdly, like also Deadline referred to Star Trek 4, the Star Trek 4 project, as the final chapter in the main series.
Huh. Okay.
I don't want that to be it.
I kind of do if it's going to take them 8 years to make each one. I'm kind of like, okay, sure, make 3 more. I'd love it. Make 6 more. But like, have a plan and do it. This whole like, we're making one. But nobody knows anything. It's been 8 years since the last one. Like, I don't know. Those characters have been our like main crew now for how many years?
I think what they're doing, they're doing a Star Trek 4 as a follow-up to end it in a good place.
Yeah.
Which it already was. Star Trek Beyond ended fine.
Sure.
But I think Kurtzman wants to move into theatrical with the Prime timeline as he's re-envisioning it.
Huh. Okay.
I think he wants to get back to that time when the shows and the movies were in the same universe.
Yeah, I do too. I like the Kelvin timeline, and I don't think that the Kelvin timeline has to be off on its own. Like, it's an alternate timeline. You could cross those things over. You know, multiverse is very established. But yeah, I do think I want them to be in the Prime timeline. I would love, we were just talking about a possible Picard movie. I would love it's an actual theatrical release, not just a Paramount Plus thing. And like, we're getting if they did it in such a way that they brought back the characters, but you didn't have to watch Picard to know what was going on. And you had Captain Picard and 7 of 9 on the ship, just like you did with season 3. Yeah, man, that Picard comes to see, what is it? The Enterprise. Do we know it's
G?
The G? Wow. Yep. Lord.
They introduced the J and then it got assimilated immediately.
Yes, that's right.
Or no, the F, sorry, not the J. F. It was F.
Okay.
Alphabet. A, B, C, D, F, G.
Yeah.
So G.
Wait, so the G, I did not realize it was the G until just now. I'm flabbergasted. The Enterprise G is just like being helmed by 7 of 9, and you've got like Geordi's kids on there, and just a LaForge on the bridge. You know what I mean? Like, just see all this stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, this feels like Star Trek. And then Picard is like the old ambassador that has to come on for a mission, and like you don't have to know anything about what happened with the Borg. That's all backstory we can watch, but like it's just a Star Trek movie. You kick off a Star Trek movie with those 2 beloved Star Trek characters, and a bunch of legacy characters sprinkled through there, but also just introduce new people and do a new story in the Star Trek universe set in that that era. I think that could be really, really good and could bring in a lot of old Star Trek fans that haven't been around, that weren't following the Kelvin timeline the same way.
Yeah. I want it all. You know me. I'm trepidatious, but I also want it all.
I trust nothing, but give me everything.
I trust nothing, but give me everything. I love it. Yeah, so let's talk about Prodigy, man.
Sure.
They opened to being in the top 10 kids ranking on Netflix in the US.
That's great.
And also in the UK, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, and New Zealand. They started out around, from 9 to... They started out somewhere at 9 in in UK, and then went to 6. And from number 5 to number 1 in Germany. They're also in the top 10 in Australia, Italy, and France. So I think we'll probably get a season 3.
Yeah. That's awesome, man.
It's looking really good for them.
That's great. And a lot of times with Netflix, something doesn't get watched the first week, but like if it's hitting top 10, hopefully enough people will watch it, and then whenever they drop season 2, it'll have that like weight of all those people who've watched season 1 on Netflix, plus people like us coming to see it. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really, really great. Because I mean, like, you've already the diehard Star Trek fans have already seen it on Paramount Plus. So if they're getting that good numbers now, when they finally drop it, season 2, all the diehards go to see it on top of the. Yeah, that seems like a really recipe for some good stuff for a season 3.
Yeah, I'm down. I want it. Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure.
This is it. This is the last bit right here, and I wanted to end it on a fun note.
Ooh, a fun note.
A fun note, not necessarily a promise, but a fun note. John Billingsley was doing a podcast, and he said, I was on the strike line, and some of the Strange New Worlds guys were coming up and saying, how long do you think Denobulans live? I said, long. Definitely long enough to be on your show if that's what you're getting at. He says, so who knows? I mean, I would happily come back, and I figure, hell, even if I'm dead, my son, Phlox Jr. is still around, and he is the spitting image of his old pop.
That's wonderful. Yes, please. Yes, please. Bring Phlox back. That's great.
Later on in that interview, he said he envisioned that he had done all of the star shipping, and now he was like a Dr. Ruth intergalactic sex guy who went around with his multiple wives and husbands writing books about having sex with different species and shit.
Oh man.
And that's where he envisions his character.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that vision.
He was like, I've done all this. Now I'm going to have some fun and do some cool shit.
Yeah. Like
I
Dr.
would
Ruth.
love to see Phlox.
Yeah. It'd be great. I'd love to see anyone from that era. But I know a lot of them are humans, and it's harder, but not impossible. We saw in TNG a number of the original series crew. 2. Did we just see 2? Yeah.
No, we saw
Spock.
DeForest Kelly
Spock.
as McCoy.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of Spock for some reason. I forgot Spock.
Spock and Scotty.
Spock, Scotty, and McCoy. I was thinking of Scotty and McCoy, and Spock didn't pop to mind for some reason.
And Kirk as well, if you count Generations.
Which I don't.
Okay. We also got Kor, Kang, and Koloth in DS9.
That's true.
The original 3 Klingons. Yeah. All
right. We'll love it. So that's it. That's all the news.
That's it, man.
Cool, man. Well, we jumped on here kind of late, so I guess we'll get off of here. I guess I got to edit one and get it posted and be up at 7 a.m. So woo, getting it done, getting life done. We'll be back, hopefully sooner than later. We got something coming out in April, but hopefully we'll be on here to chat some more.
Well, I just gotta pop up and tell you that there's stuff going on.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to talk about.
For sure, yeah. I'm always down.
Me and Effie are like really deep into original series at the moment, so
I love it.
We're still getting that stuff out.
I love it. All right, well, we'll be back soon, guys. Peace. Jolan True.
Live long and prosper. It's been so long, Matt.
It's been so long.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.